Hello, how do I DJ a game while I am DMing a game with the most efficiency, least attention, most quickness and greatest ease? The best way possible of creating that incredible immersive experience that the Syrinscape Online Player can bring to your game. I was DJing the D&D live games, which was fantastic this year, completely remotely. I was controlling Syrinscape from Sydney, Australia. The online player, that little player there, was sitting on the sound mixer's desk in Seattle, and there were remote players all over the world playing this really, really cool game, and Syrinscape sound was pumping out. Then, last night I was playing a game, DJing a game, Dungeon Mastering a game for the Dice Storm as my friends, and I realized I've actually worked out a bit of a methodology for how to make this whole experience really excellent and smooth while having to run the game at the same time. And here I am to explain it to you. Excellent. Just a few little hints about how to organize yourself, how to get the sound going and make everything really, really smooth and awesome. Right. In last night's game, the first scene was in an Elven village, a mysterious, beautiful place. So I decided to just basically start with the Under Mountain Forest, which I know is beautiful, and I love this saxophone music that I wrote for this sound set. You might like this sound set too, and it can be a starting point. So the first thing I did while I was narrating, while he was talking about what he was saying, is I just hit the duplicate button, which creates a version of the sound set that I can edit myself. You see it's called it Under Mountain Forest Custom 6. I'm going to rename that to Sunday's Game. Now this is a version of the sound set that I can add to, subtract, adjust, mess with, completely customize, so it's mine and no one sees it or does anything with it but me. Awesome, so that's playing. The role-playing is still going on. I know that I'm going to want some battle music at some stage, and I'm going to show you two different ways of finding really awesome battle music. I played the Ghost of Saltmarsh Adventures recently. And I know there's some fantastic music in there. I happen to remember the name of the element, D&D Saltmarsh battle music. That makes a certain amount of sense. I'm just going to click plus on that. Add that to my sound set, so that's ready to trigger too. I also remember that I heard some cool battle music in the Avernus sound sets, Descend into Avernus, which are really epic, but I don't remember the name of the element, so I'm going to actually go into that sound set. And I'm going to find, here it is, Avernus rock music. Awesome. I'm going to go copy to sound set. I'm going to type in Sunday, and there's my sound set. I'm going to go copy. While I'm here, I also notice while I'm continuing narrating, imagine this talking is my narration to my player and my interactions with him. Battle at the gate, copy to sound set. So there's two different sorts of really, really cool battle music. I'm going to go back to Sunday's Game. Narrating, blah, 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 blah. And there we are, those two, all those elements are there, which is super, super cool. Battle at the Gate, Avernus rock music. Yep, good, they're all ready to go when I need some battle music. I also know that very soon he's going to go to the swamp. So I'm going to search for the swamp sound set. And this time I'm going to copy the entire mood of Oppressive Heat. Yeah, I go to that mood, I go to the mood inspector, and I'm going to go, yep, copy to sound set. It's already auto-filled Sunday's Game because it knows that I'm working with that sound set and copying elements there. Fantastic, so it just does that. I now think I'm just about ready to play. That's all the prep that I've done sort of pretty much on the spot while I managed to keep talking and running the game. The Elven mood ends up going and going and going and going. Eventually you finally leave and they say, okay, so you're going to depart. You're going to head out to the marshes in your boat or whatever. And so I just reach over and touch Oppressive Heat and it will crossfade beautifully and smoothly. Excellent. Ooh. Remember, always you can adjust the volume you are experiencing personally on the online player here and the volume that everyone's experiencing here. So if you start a new battle or something and it's much louder, you can adjust the volume for everyone up there. But of course, everyone's also free just to generally mix the sound for themselves in their own player as well, which is one of the best things. All right, so we're in the swamp. They're going through, maybe one of them says they're going to cast a message spell. So they say, I'm going to cast message, and you say, okay, what are you going to say? He says, okay, I'm going to cast a spell now, and in that time I've just typed message into the search thing here, and I just reach over and touch it. Cool! Restoration. Restoration. Lesser restoration, there we are. Just cast that. A cure spell. Excellent, we've got it at different levels here. I'm just going to cast Hit at second level. All these spells come up super, super fast. If you don't find a spell when you type its name in, say the spell was called blah blah blah, you go, oh, there's none. You go, what level spell is that? If you happen to, otherwise you can just type any level that you think is vaguely appropriate. I'm going to type in first level here, click the class, because there are some differences in the sounds between the arcane and the divine casters. Excellent. Finally, battle finishes. So I'm going to, sorry, battle finishes, battle starts in the swamp. So I'm going to start my awesome, awesome, awesome D&D Saltmarsh battle music. Yeah. Adjust the volume to your own liking for your mix. Maybe turn down the sound of some of the insects a little. Good. Okay. It turns out, when you actually look at the description of your scene, that there's bugbears in this scene. So I'm going to quickly type in bugbear, because I know there's a sound set in Syrinscape called Bugbear Battle. I'm going to growls. I'm going to copy that element. Copy to SoundSet. Copy. And I want the battle cries too. Copy to SoundSet. Copy. Good. Go back to Sunday. Meanwhile, they've just finally finished rolling for initiative. Excellent. I go down to my new elements, which are at the very bottom. I'm going to trigger those. I can move them around, of course, if I like. Good. And there's a black dragon that's going to be coming. Now, this is an interesting one. Black dragon. Ah, there's a black dragon roars element. So I'm going to go plus. There it is. I'm going to start that off. Oh, it's sounding nice. I also want to have a one-shot available for this roar. This is actually the one-shot I made in yesterday's game, but I'll show you how I did it. First, I hit duplicate. I'm going to edit its name so that it's raw singular, so I can recognize it as a one-shot. I'm also going to change its status to one-shot. I'm also just going to quickly move it right on top of the listener so it's as loud as possible. Now when I trigger that one-shot. Yeah. So this is all happening while the battle's happening. There's ample space. As you all know as Dungeon Masters, when the players are messing about trying to work out what their spell does or whatever. Finally, someone casts Fireball. So I cast that. Just type that in and click that. Ah, I love that epic spell sound. Okay, I'm actually quite happy with this battle scenario that I've set up. Maybe let's say I've changed over to another sort of music, to this Avernus rock music, which I love. And I'm going to now save this mood so I can come back to it later. Maybe I need to pause the session because yeah, we need to have a toilet break or whatever. And I'm going to go big battle, save current mood, okay, create mood. Just hit create mood. Syrinscape will save your new version, big battle. Okay, I'll push stop to stop where we are. I could also, of course, just turn down the volume a little bit if I really want to. Excellent, Syrinscape will stop. We go and have our break. We go and get some chips, some Mountain Dew and burger rings or whatever. And then when I'm ready, I can go back to the oppressive heat, or I can go straight into that big battle. And that will turn on all the elements. Obviously, that's what a mood does at the volumes that they were set and get us back into the battle. Meanwhile, do note that... There we go. It's all starting up. Fantastic. Do note that there is the final fanfare sound here. Sad trombone for if someone rolls a 1. A hooray for when they roll a 20. Or at the end of the battle, what I like to do is go stop and touch the victory to wrap up my fantastic explanation. Thank you for coming on this journey with me. I hope all that makes sense. Ask some questions in the comments or the forum thingy or the whatever around us, and to help me to explain what I may have glossed over or what extra information you might like. But yeah, that's sort of pretty much a picture of what I did last night over 6 hours, all compressed into just not too long a video, hopefully, indeed. Yeah, awesome. Lovely to speak to you. Keep playing online. Stay healthy, stay safe, and yeah, D&D it up.